everybody. Welcome to week 3 of HPConnects. Today we are having an amazing conversation with Julie Brown. Yes, the Julie Brown. She's a business development strategist. She's a networking coach. She's a professional speaker. And tomorrow you will have an opportunity to reserve on Kindle her first ever book called This Shit Works. Special thanks for Deco for being our sponsor today. Deco provides specialized construction, maintenance, and fabrication services to leading biopharmaceutical, technology, and industrial clients throughout New England. Please visit them at decco.com. And with that, Julie Brown, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Super excited for this.
Sunny Thursday. I'm so excited. It's like we live in a perpetual yesterday, today, and tomorrow, but I still get excited when it's Thursday because it's almost Friday. So
I'm
here we are.
That you can tell the difference between the day amongst the days.
That's because one of the rules I instituted when this first happened was I wear real pants and I get dressed every day. So I know what day it is because
I'm not
get up
wearing
and
sweatpants.
Dress like it's work. So I am not one of those business on the top, party on the bottom kind of people. I'm like,
I gotta say, I'm loving my sweats. But don't
they lie, so I don't do it. I have to wear real pants. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now with everybody so I can do, a little presentation for you. I want this to be as interactive as possible. I want to answer as many questions as possible for everybody. So I'm going to suggest that you pipe into that chat box whenever you feel like it. Yep. So today I'm going to talk about how we can still network during social distancing, how we can still foster our relationships, how we can still deepen our relationships, how we can make new relationships. And because next week's guest is about biophilia in the home office and in the home and all of its benefits, I'm going to do a little bit at the end some work from home strategies with some studies and surveys that I've been doing with people in the industry, trying to figure out what the best practices are, so to sort of walk that tightrope of work and life and managing the pandemic all at once. As if the pandemic wasn't enough, now we have murder hornets. Not excited about that. So this is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to give you a question of the day. We're going to go over some networking facts as it pertains to increasing your career, but also for anybody who actually has been a victim of a layoff or a furlough. I'm going to talk about some networking facts around finding jobs. I'm going to talk about some social distancing networking strategies, how to stay connected and influential during social distancing, how to engage your audience on Zoom. So we're doing all of our networking events on Zoom now. So a couple of strategies to engage your network on Zoom. And then I'll wrap it up with those work from home strategies. And hopefully that covers a lot of what people wanted to hear and what brought you here today. So one question I do have, if you will put it in the chat box for me, is what did bring you here? What about this title and this description of this particular webinar on this particular day brought you here? And I'm asking because I want to make sure that I cover everything for you in the hour that we have together. So just pop something into the chat for me right now, what you really wanted to have covered today, what seemed interesting for you during all of this. So that, and then Anastasia, you might want to tell me, I can't really see the chat box right now. So you might want to tell me what people are saying, if anything.
Yeah,
so.
Right now it's kind of quiet. So I'll pipe up that I'm curious, even though Zoom does work and Skype, these virtual connections, these meetings, is it really, are people really staying connected? I'm curious.
Sure. Okay, sure. So it does human interaction translate across a virtual medium?
Yeah.
My answer to that would be yes. We have somebody who says, I want to make sure we get a good view of that Deco logo. So while I'm sharing my screen, I want to make sure that maybe at some point when I do another question, we can pop up their logo.
Yes,
to make sure that they
yes, absolutely.
they get the shout out that they want.
Yeah.
Okay. here we go. So here's a little bit of facts right now around networking. And it is been said that during COVID-19, 33% of workers are expected to be laid off. So we're already seeing it, and we're seeing it in the construction industry. So I know a number of large construction firms have laid off, a number of architecture firms have laid off, engineering firms have been laying people off. And it's because our projects are on hold, and a lot of the companies that we do work with, their profits are down. If you do work in the academia space, their endowments are down. They're not sure if students are coming back to school in the fall. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now. So the sort of like conservative number is that 33% of workers will be laid off during COVID-19. Yeah. So the thing that's really important about learning how to network and build your power network and circles of people around you who are invested in your success is because 85% of positions are filled through networking. 85% of positions that are ever available are filled through networking, and only 74% of those jobs are never going to be advertised. So 26% or fewer jobs will ever be advertised. Those jobs are going to be filled in a scenario that looks like this. Company is going to say, okay, we need to fill this role. We need to hire for this position. And what they're going to do is they're not going to advertise the position, because if they advertise it, especially now in a climate like this, they're going to get 1 million people responding to that. And they don't want to filter through all of those resumes and emails. They want to go to their network, right, so that they can get a better sort of response to the positions that they're trying to fill. And so this happened to me last week. I had 2 companies reach out to me last week and said to me, we are quietly trying to fill these. One company said this position, another company said that position. We're quietly trying to fill this position right now. We're not going to advertise it. Do you know anybody who would be a good fit? That's how the jobs in general, even before a global pandemic, were filled. So you need to think about, do you know enough people? So if somebody has a job opportunity, you're somebody that they could think of for that job opportunity if you are looking for a job. And maybe if you're like even thinking about making a move, this is how those jobs are going to be filled. Statistically, professionals who spend 6 hours a week networking agree that it plays a vital, pivotal role in their success. If you don't network, your career at some point will plateau. And I don't want you to look at me and say, Jules, I don't have 6 hours. Okay, well, maybe you don't have 6 hours, but it doesn't mean you don't have 1 hour. It doesn't mean you don't have 2 hours a week. I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you don't have a full 6 hours to network with every week. You need to still do something. And when I say networking, I want you to think about networking externally, outside of your office, but also internally. People, statistically, who network with people in their office in a 360-degree fashion, who don't just network with people at their level, but they network with people who are under them and also above them with the senior administration of their firm. Those are the people who have access to promotions, access to intelligence, or access to resources that help them elevate their career. So think about that. Networking. Oh, I just went into that. Great. I'm so smart. Networking within your organization will allow you to get to know people who can provide support and advancement now and in the future. When I think about, before I started my own company 4.5 years ago, when I think about the leaps in my career, like when I started taking really sort of big steps in my career, it was when I had mentors or advocates within the offices that I was working in. And I'm from construction. I spent 21 years in architecture and construction. So I worked at Sasaki, I worked at Perry Dean Rogers, I worked at Shawmut Construction. Like I worked in large offices in the AEC industry. When I think about the biggest sort of gains I got in my career, it was either I was being advanced by somebody within my office, or I was alerted to positions within other companies by people I used to work with who were advocates for me and my skill set. So, and then for the ladies on the line, I don't know how many ladies we have on the line, but studies show that one of the single biggest limiting factors for women in business is lack of a network. To which I say, not on my watch, because that doesn't have to happen. women network differently than men. We tend to, we're going to get into circles later, but women tend to have smaller, more tight knit networks of people who are at the same exact level as them, where men generally have networks that are more broad. They are filled with people who they're not afraid to build relationships with people who have seniority over them. They're not afraid to build relationships with people who are under them. They're more of like a whole 360-degree network builder. And again, we're going to get into some timing too, but men generally make time in their schedule for networking when women feel guilty about taking time for themselves, for their career, because networking events generally happen at night. So there's a guilt factor there about not being home. There's other reasons too, but those are the main factors.
Looks like we have a couple of questions. The most recent question that I think you should answer now is, do you have any suggestions for finding all women networking circles or female networking circles?
Can you let me know what can you just real quick type in what you do, what you do for a living, so I can, like, are you an engineer, are you an architect, are you a builder, are you none of those? Are, because I'm in marketing. Okay. So generally, okay, when I was in marketing back in, 1999, I joined the Society for Marketing Professional Services. So, which was generally at that time very female heavy as far as the membership. And that's how I began to make a lot of relationships with the women that also did marketing in other firms within our industry. There are a number of women's organizations. So next week, I'm giving a presentation to the Professional Women in Construction. Last week, I gave one to Women in Architecture Philadelphia. Like, there's a lot of female-focused segments within our industry. Like, so the AGC has the Building Women in Construction subset of the AGC. So think about the different organizations that are, and we'll get into this as well. What are the different organizations available to you? And do they have a women specific subset that you can join? And yeah, SMPS was pivotal for me when I was starting my career, as far as being able to be at the table with a number of women who did what I did. And some were my contemporaries, and some had been in the industry for 20 years or more. It was a great space for me to learn from other women and to network and build relationships with other women. And to this day, I still have relationships with the women that I met in that organization. So I hope that answers that question. So let's talk a little bit about how to build our network even during COVID-19. So there's a lot of things that we can do. We have a lot of tools at our disposal right now. So let's think about this. Let's analyze our existing relationships, our existing network. Have you ever actually taken the time to say, how many people do I know? Like, how big is my actual network? So go on LinkedIn and make a list of all of your LinkedIn connections. And I have a caveat here, because I don't believe your network includes people you haven't met. So if you have people on LinkedIn where somebody sent you one of those blanket, I'd like to connect with you on, I'd like to join your network on LinkedIn, and you hit accept, and you haven't had, an interaction with them beyond that initial interaction, that's not your connection. I want you to think about real, honest to God connections that you have. So go through LinkedIn. How many people do you know? Go through your iPhone. Your network is also your family and your friends and your past colleagues and people you went to college with. Like, think about your network in a more sort of holistic, whole way. Like, how many people do you know? Think about that. You probably know more people already than you give yourself credit for, but you probably haven't been in touch with them. You haven't probably tapped back into a lot of your network in a long time. So now we're going to think about our network, and we're going to think about leveraging the people we already know for introductions. Okay. Quickest way to meet somebody you don't know is through somebody you already do know. So make that easy for you. This is a super easy way to increase your network. If you reached out to your 10 closest connections and you said, I'm trying to increase the size of my network, who in your network do you think would benefit from meeting me or my skill set, or would be good to network with, or anything like that? Leverage your existing networks for new introductions. And in my book, I talk a lot about like triadic closure. And it's sort of like the friend of my friend is my friend. When you are introduced to somebody through an existing connection, the rate at which your relationship grows, it has a speed up factor because you share an existing connection. So think about who you know who could introduce you to other people. Now, again, we just talked about this a little bit. Research and join organizations in your industry, and don't just join. Like, it doesn't make any sense to join and pay your membership if you're not going to be using that as an avenue to create new relationships. So become involved. Look at all of the different committees and look at who sits on those committees and figure out which one you think you are most interested in, and what table. And being on those committees allows you a seat at a table once a month with the people on those committees. So think about that. Like, okay, I only have so much time, so I'm going to join 2 industry organizations. What would those 2 be? In which committees would I join so that I can have a seat at the table every month with those people and start building relationships? I'll go back to SMPS. When I was with SMPS, I had a boss who is still my mentor. She's retired now. Her name was Katie. And she said to me when I joined the firm, I was 23 years old. She said, you're going to join SMPS and you're going to get on a committee. That is part of your job description. She didn't give me a choice. And it was honestly the best direct order I have ever gotten from a boss and a mentor. Because now, I mean, I'm 44. So now 21 years later, I'm still friends with all of those girls that I was on that committee with, and all of the women that I met after, joining and becoming involved. So now that we know which organizations we want to get involved in and all the other ones that are available to us, let's just make a list of all of the events that are available to us every month and then decide which ones in advance to go to. And how you'll decide is, how much money does it cost? What's my budget for events? How much time do I have? What can I fit in my schedule? Can I fit 1 event in a week? Can I fit 2 in a month? Like, what is my time commitment for these? So think about them in advance so that you can prioritize networking within your calendar. So schedule a minimum of 2 networking events per week. Now, by event, I mean, maybe it's an event, a physical event that when we're all allowed to go to, we go to. Or maybe it's a coffee, 2 coffees. Maybe it's a coffee and a lunch. Maybe it's just a catch up kind of thing. Like, we grab a cocktail. Like, these are all things we'll do like post-COVID, but they're all happening now. Your networking events are still going on with breakout rooms and networking pre and post presentations. You can still have virtual coffees. You can still have cocktail parties. I don't like to eat on camera, so I would say like maybe have like a pre-lunch like get together. You can still do all of that stuff right now. You have no excuse to not do it. Everybody knows how to Zoom. Zoom is like the new social platform. Like, everybody knows how to do it. You can't give yourself excuses to not do it because it's a new technology, or you don't feel comfortable, or I'm not sure what I look like on camera. You got to get over that. I don't like my face on a good day, and so to look at my face all the time, it's like exhausting. But you're your harshest critic. So don't worry about like what your face looks like on camera. Just get on there and be yourself and have your personality show through. So
can I pipe in?
Sure.
I was waiting for you to talk about that. There's one question that says, I want to know how I can feel more comfortable in front of the camera instead of networking in person. So really for now,
okay,
how everything is virtual. Yeah.
So a couple of things about the camera is, don't look at yourself on the Zoom. So up here, right there, that green light, that's your camera. Just focus on that. Don't watch this. If I'm looking at the camera right now, you can tell I'm like making eye contact with you. I'm engaged. But if my image, okay, so I can see my face. So if I moved my image down here, where's my eyesight now? I'm so busy looking at myself that I don't look engaged in this conversation whatsoever. So my first thing would be is look right there, because that's where your audience is.
Julie, I do that naturally, just because I'm an actor, but that's something I do, and I tell other people, and it's not, obviously it's not very, you don't feel connected because you're looking at that green dot.
Yes.
But it totally makes the difference.
Yes. And so what I do also to help me do that is I put my Zoom on gallery and I spread the gallery out right up at the top of my computer. So I literally, if I spread it out at the top of my computer and I put my face right at the top of the computer, so whoever I want to be talking to, I would put their face. I'm looking directly at my face right now, but it still looks like I'm looking right at the camera. So if that helps you, move that gallery up to the very top of the computer screen and look at it that way. So that way you're still looking at somebody's face and not just at the green light, but you at least feel like you're having some sort of eye-to-eye contact. And that will help you not look at your own face. And I'm going to move mine because I don't like to look at my own face. So is that helpful?
I think it's extremely helpful.
Okay. Again, I can't see the chat box.
Oh yeah, so helpful! Exclamation point! Yes.
Okay, great. I mean, there's other things too where, you know, just like you would for a meeting or an event, make sure you feel good about your appearance. Like if you want to do your hair and you want to do your makeup, and you want to get dressed up, do it. Just do it. Make sure you feel comfortable when you sit down in front of this camera. Because you're going to exude how comfortable you feel. So put yourself in a position where you feel as comfortable as possible, physically, and it will help you, sort of deliver that in a virtual environment. Also, for your event, whatever your event is, whether it's a meeting or it's a networking event, like be prepared for it. Like if it's a networking event, a lot of times now we're posing questions of the day into breakout rooms. I sure am. So think about also like what you could talk about to people you haven't met. Like I would talk about like, are you listening to any podcasts now that we're working from home? Like, are you listening to any podcasts? Have you binge watched all of the shows? Like, did you watch Tiger King? Did you watch Ozarks? Did you watch, like, sort of like these dopamine inducing conversations that sort of just pick up the environment of whatever breakout rooms or events you're in, and so sort of cause a bit of levity to the situation. And then when you do that, when you are just having like a back and forth conversation, oh yeah, oh my God, oh yeah, you kind of forget that you're looking into, a camera instead of being in the room. So physical gatherings are on hold. I wish they wouldn't call it social distancing. We are male dominated. What are we?
You see that?
Yep. Okay, so sorry, real quick. What are the best organizations to join as a male to find candidates? So we're a male dominated PMGC company. Well, I would say, I mean, the AGC has the Building Women in Construction, the Professional Women in Construction. I would reach out to the PwC Boston is a rather new organization. I would reach out to the organizations, the board of that, and start building relationships with them. What else?
There's PwC, SMPS.
Yeah, I mean, so those SMPS wouldn't be project managers though.
Oh, you're right.
So I'm just trying to think of like who would be project managers. I would start there. And those women like on the board of PwC and involved in building women in construction through the AGC, Lisa Frisbee runs that. I would reach out to her and then I don't know exactly who's on the board at PwC. I know Shelley Vanderweil is and Sarah McGillicuddy is. So Construction Institute in Connecticut. Okay. Building Congress. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to take up we can go offline with that if you want. If you can certainly send me an email if you want some introductions to people in those orgs. But that's where I would start. So getting back to this, I really wish they hadn't called what's happening right now social distancing. I wish they'd called it physical distancing, because social distancing implies that we're not allowed to be social, and we as humans are social beings. So I don't like to take that away from people. So I call it physical distancing. So physical gatherings are on hold. Online gatherings are not on hold. Relationships are certainly not on hold. We need each other more than ever. And meetings, especially even new and meet and greets, are not on hold. I've been telling all of my clients, like when this first happened, like, so it was like March 17th or 18th, like they canceled all of their meetings. And I was like, please don't cancel meetings, because we don't know how long we're going to be doing this. And you're going to have to learn how to do this anyways, because we don't know when we're going back. So let's just do everything we can to convert even our meet and greets, even our first meetings to Zooms, because if we're not doing it, your competition is going to be doing it. They're going to figure out how to do these meet and greets on Zoom. And I know that they're still happening. I know that people are still meeting people and still doing, informational meetings on Zoom. So please don't let this be an excuse to not reach out to somebody and ask for an introductory meeting.
Julie, I just want to interject. Looks like we have a question.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the concept, and in my opinion, that women don't support other women the way men typically do? How do we start to have that conversation openly?
Yeah. It's such a loaded question. Because that Madeline Albright quote, like, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. I love that quote. Here's the thing. Women are not going to help other women until we realize that somebody else's success doesn't take away from our own. And until we realize that there's room at the top for everyone, for all of the women, and that you are stronger together than you are separate. And women tend to think, I don't know, maybe it's everybody. Maybe it's everybody tends to think that someone else's success means that somehow there isn't room for you. And that's just not the case. And in the Obama administration, there was this thing that the women in the Obama administration created called the amplification of the female voice. And it was that in every meeting, the women in the meeting, if a woman brought up a point or voiced a fact or voiced an idea, the other women at the meeting would say something to the effect of, I want to echo what Anastasia said, and brought back her point so that it was heard multiple times. So doing things like that, being invested in the success of other women is never going to take away from your success. So I think we need to not be intimidated by successful women who need to help other women become successful. Once you are successful, it's your job to help other women become successful. And then not think that there isn't room at the top for all of us. So these are just everyday deeds that we do, that we have to try to do. And I hope that's helpful. I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard. I think women are harder on other women than they are on, women are first hard on themselves. No one's harder on me than me. So women are hard on themselves, and it makes them hard on other women as well. And I mean, that's gonna take a lot of unlearned behavior to get over that. And I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you.
Okay. So networking exercises during COVID-19. So let's talk a little bit about analyzing that network that I mentioned. So you went through LinkedIn, and you went through your phone, and you thought about all the people you know, and you wrote them all down. So in my book, I talk about the circles around you. And I named the chapter Pride, Parade, or Dazzle because I wrote the chapter right when I got back from a safari trip in South Africa. And on the trip, I noticed like how big herd sizes were, like how big a pride of lions is and a parade of elephants. And if you would believe it, like a herd of zebras, which they pronounce zebras in South Africa, is called a dazzle. And I started thinking about like each of these groups of animals have a specific size around them that helps them become successful in nature. So I started thinking about like, well, what are the circles around humans? Like, how big does our network have to be? And I came up with these 4 circles. And the 5 is obvious because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like that's been touted over and over and over again. So you have to surround yourself with the 5 closest people who are invested in your success, who help you do better, who are at the top of their game as well. You're always pushing yourself to be better. If you don't have 5, please don't freak out about it, because studies show that most people actually can only name 4 people in their immediate circle who do that for them. If you're married, Warren Buffett wrote an article a couple years ago that said that all of the most successful people in the world, they have one thing in common, and that one thing is, a spouse or a life partner who is as invested in their success as the person was. So you're in your top 5. If you are paired up with somebody, that person should be that person for you. And then the 15 for me is like, okay, so you're having a birthday party. Who are the 15 people you invite? Or who are the first 15 people you think of when you think of like, I need help with something at work? Like, who are those 15 people? It's always the first 15 people that come to your mind. And then 50 robust connections. So can you reach out to 50 people and say, I need information? Like if you find out about a lead and you're like, how am I gonna get information on that? Like, do you have 50 people you could reach out to and say, hey, do you know about this? I'm trying to gather information on that. There are people who pick up your phone, your phone call, they see your name and then they go, oh, like they pick up the phone call. They email you back, like you email them, they email you back, that same day. Like these are people that are helpful to you in your network, and you are to them as well. And then the outer circle of 100 is like, when I did my circles, I had a 5, 15, 50, 100, 150, like a 200, because I've just been networking for so long. But the 100 is super important. Like maybe these are people that you only see a few times a year at certain events, and maybe you only get together for coffee or lunch like every 6 months. But there's like an enormous power in this circle of 100. Back on that first slide, when I said that 85% of jobs are filled through networking, they're filled through connections from the 100 circle. So think about that. And that's perhaps why men are better networkers than women, because men tend to build like bigger concentric circles of relationships around them, where women tend to do these really tight-knit networks. So think about that. So could you fill out those circles? And then every day during this, could you call somebody every day? Could you call 2 people a day? If that's too much, don't do it. Could you call 1 person a day? If that's too much, could you pick Monday, Wednesday, Friday and call 1 person on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from any of those circles, and just reconnect with them on a human level? And I mean, pick up the phone and call them. Don't email them. Just pick up the phone. Like I started doing this March 17th, the day that we were all told to not go to work anymore. And I got to tell you, it has been so amazing for me. I've had the most amazing conversations just picking up the phone and saying, hey, how you doing? And never has how you doing been such a loaded question. And I'm enjoying this. I hope I have time to continue this activity after we all go back to work. So think about that. These are low load lifts for you. Like you can do this during COVID-19. So again, when I said leverage your existing connections for new introductions, go through those circles and pick out 10 people. Pick out 10 people, maybe 1 from your 5, 2 from your 15, 3 from your 50. Like pick them out and just ask them like if there's any introductions that could be made. Some of my most amazing relationships I have are because somebody asked for a strategic introduction. Like I literally tandem bungee jumped off the Victoria Falls Bridge in Zambia in October, I think it was, with a woman that I met because she asked for a strategic introduction. And literally I got an email that was like, Julie, I think you should meet Shannon. She's cool. She's adventurous, like blah, blah, blah. I think you'd be great networkers together. And I met her and I was like, immediately, I was like, oh my God, I love you. And like a year later, we're jumping off a bridge together in South Africa. Like, you don't know what's going to happen from these strategic introductions. Like, don't not take them because you're afraid to ask for introductions. And then when you are given those introductions, we normally would have said, okay, let's find a time to grab coffee. Still do it. You have no excuse to not have a virtual meet and greet with these people. And if you get an introduction from somebody that says like, I'm connecting Joe and Scott because Joe, please meet Scott. Scott meets Joe. I thought you guys would be, good networkers together. I thought you might benefit from knowing each other, blah, blah, blah. Don't wait for the other person to email you. Don't be that person. You're so afraid of rejection. Like everybody's afraid of rejection. So they don't send out the first email because they're afraid if they send it out, the other person isn't going to send it back. Please stop worrying about that. Like you could get into like this paralysis of who's going to email first. Just do it. Just be the person who reaches out and says, I'm wicked glad we got connected. Let's set up a Zoom coffee or a phone call. If you have Zoom face, which I get, like if you can't handle another Zoom meeting, like don't not have a conversation with them. So you take the initiative, and when you take that initiative, put in action items in the sense that make it easy for them to say, yes, I'm available at that time. Do you have time for a virtual coffee on these dates at these times? Pick one. I'll set it up. So as far as finding networking events, we talked about this. Make that list of all of those organizations and then check their event calendar for virtual events. What's so awesome about right now is it doesn't cost anything to go to events. All of these events are for free. So we can just take that whole budget conversation off of the table. Just look at all those events and say, okay, which one am I going to go to? Because they're all free. Which one fits in my calendar? Which one am I going to make time to go to? And then do it. So make a list and then punch in the ones in your calendar that you have availability and decide in advance that I am going to go to this, even if I am uncomfortable, even if I don't know anybody in the breakout rooms. I did a networking event a couple weeks ago where it was literally a kickboxing class. And we did networking before, and then we all did a kickboxing class together, and we all kept our cameras on. I mean, let me tell you, I'm not even that like coordinated. So like I was super nervous about like people watching me kickbox, and I was like, I'm going to shut my camera off. And nobody shut their camera off, and we had the best time. Like we had so much fun. Nobody was like, we were all so busy like sweating and punching and kicking. We weren't even looking at everybody else. But let me tell you, if I can do a networking kickboxing class with my camera on, you can do a networking breakout room. You can do a networking cocktail party. You can do a networking, coffee catch up. So prioritize these events, put them in your schedule. Remember, you don't have to do 6 hours a week, but you got to do something. So let's prioritize these events every week. Remember, networking is not a nice to have skill. If you want career advancement, if you want greater success, if you want to look for a job, if something happens to you, networking is not a nice to have skill. It's a needed skill. And then maybe if you're done with the industry orgs and you want to just do something random, look on Eventbrite for a networking event. There's tons of them on there. So just look there if you want something, not the norm of yourself. And then create your own networking events. Like you can do this now. They don't cost any money. You don't have to worry about having a budget to create your own networking event. Pick 5 people from your circles. Have them each invite 1 to 2 people and then make it fun. Have a theme for the networking event. Yes, Tuesday I had a Cinco de Mayo one. Last week, I literally had a derby party. This was my fascinator. I had a derby party one. Dog Mom Day is on Saturday. Get all your dog moms together. National Chocolate Chip Day. Put out a recipe first and tell everybody to change one ingredient. National Paloma Day. I'm a big fan of tequila. Nothing says breakfast like tequila and grapefruit juice. So have a National Paloma Day one. National Wine Day on the 25th. Look, if you don't want to have drinks, fine. Have a podcast discussion event. Have a book club event. Have a tutorial. Like how do I do this? How do I make a face mask? Like how do you you just have to open up that little piece of your mind that's creative and say, how can I make this fun for people? And make people want to attend this. So do those things. Okay. Any questions? How am I doing on time? Okay. I got to keep going. I was going to take questions, but I'll wait. So right now, engagement on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's up at least 40%. 40% was the metric a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure it's up more. So let's start thinking about how we can network online as well. And before you do that, I want you to boss up that LinkedIn profile. I want you to, use a really good headshot, like scour your drive for a good headshot, or use the portrait mode on your phone to set up a good headshot. Start commenting on people's articles and things that they post. Really good time to ask for recommendations on LinkedIn. So think about the people in your 5, 15, your 50, and your 100. Who could you send a request to write a recommendation for you on LinkedIn? Now, don't worry. If you haven't done this before, you have the opportunity to read them and approve them before they get posted. So think about asking for recommendations. And then if you're on any of the other platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, use those to post useful content, like create stories with polls that have creative interactive elements, like comment on other people's, like if you follow somebody on Instagram and they have no idea who you are, they will still have no idea who you are unless you comment and start posting, comments on their feed. So interact with people on the platforms, because again, people are on it 40% more than they were before. So creating useful content, post articles on LinkedIn. Instead of just posting on LinkedIn, use the write an article feature on LinkedIn. I've been doing this every Tuesday. I've been posting an article, and I honestly have gotten so much traction on LinkedIn since I've started doing that. Put together your own webinar. What do you do? What do you do that is easy for you that other people might find difficult? And create a webinar around it. So what could you think of to host a webinar on? If nobody comes, it doesn't cost you anything but time. You can do a Zoom webinar. You can borrow somebody else's Zoom login if you don't have one. Like, what could you write? What could you do a webinar on that other people in your network might be interested in? Could you collaborate with people in your network? Could you put together a virtual panel discussion? Like get a couple of other people in the industry. Maybe if you're in construction, you're talking about, so many people think that construction is going to be cheaper now, when it's just totally not going to be cheaper. Like the way that we have to set up construction sites are going to be so much more expensive. So maybe it's a panel discussion around, so the financial impacts of how we're going to have to set, of COVID-19, and how we're going to have to set up construction sites until we have a vaccine. And then maybe even after we have a vaccine, like what changes? Be creative. Like what questions could you answer? Could you put together panelists and get somebody fun to moderate it, like who knows how to moderate a panel, like, because that's really going to set the tone for the panel. And then if there are podcasts, like reach out to Anastasia and ask if you can be on her podcast as a guest speaker. Other people like in the industry that have podcasts, everybody's got a podcast. My grandmother's got a podcast. Like reach out to those people and ask if you could be a guest speaker on their podcast. So how to increase engagements, and I'm running out of time, so I want to talk, I'm going to go through these. How to increase engagements in Zoom meetings. Set the tone and define the why. So why are we even here? Okay, so make sure if it's a meeting, you have a set agenda, you go through that. So you say, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to do this, this, and this. Like define the why we're here. When people come in, welcome them as they come in, set the structure for the meeting, make sure everybody knows each other. If you have to do a round robin of introductions, do that. Make sure everybody knows each other. Start with an icebreaker question so that it just gets everybody talking. And then if this is a webinar, enable question and answer so you have interaction with your audience. Designate a panelist, like Anastasia is going over and making sure that I see the questions as they come in. Like designate a panelist or a co-host to field those questions. You could create polls. Zoom allows you to create polls in advance, so you could come up with polls and poll your audience to encourage interaction. Those are super fun. If you're doing a networking room, or even if you're doing a large company meeting, use breakout rooms. And time them. We're going to do a breakout room for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, so that people feel like this is great for networking events, because if you put like 4 people in a breakout room, you get that sort of circle you might get at a networking event where like 4 people are standing around each other talking. Do this in meetings if you want to put together, like if you're having a charrette or you're going over maybe a problem on a project or something like that. Do these breakout rooms and say, okay, we got 10 minutes, each person come up with different scenarios or solutions, and then come back in and have each breakout room present what they came up with. You can still be very, very interactive in Zoom meetings. And then send up a follow-up email to the attendees of the meetings so that so if somebody met somebody in a breakout room, they don't have to worry about like exchanging information in the chat. They can, you tell them, I'm going to be sending out an attendee list with emails afterwards so that they can follow up with the people that they met. So what is the one thing that people are struggling with most regarding work from home and right now?
I'm going to go ahead and pipe in and say it's setting up a routine. You know?
Okay. All right.
Because
so
the routine and you're out the door.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I've come up with in my studies: staying focused and completing tasks without getting overwhelmed. Okay, great. Okay, so here's the 5 things that I've come up with in my reach out and my surveys to people in the industry. You have to establish a routine. You have to wake up at the same time every day. And what I say is inevitably you're going to wake up because your iPhone's going to go off and that's your alarm. And what you're going to do is you're going to get up and you're going to roll out of bed and you're going to go to the bathroom and you're going to bring your phone with you. What I need you to do is not bring your phone into the bathroom with you. You don't need to. You can go to the bathroom. You can do your morning shit in the morning, and not bring your phone in with you. I want you to give yourself 30 minutes of unconnected activity. Like, do something for yourself. Wake up, put that phone away. Don't scroll through your emails. Don't scroll through your feeds. Start the day with 30 minutes of movement, something to be effective. Like maybe you have a morning workout routine. Fine, do it. Maybe you don't like stretch for 30 minutes, like go for a walk. Like I go in the morning because nobody's really outside yet and I don't have to wear a mask when nobody's outside yet. Like do something for yourself for 30 minutes because what we're lacking right now is commute time. We used to have time where we would like read or listen to the radio or whatever on our commutes. We don't have that anymore. So give yourself 30 minutes that isn't work. So I don't want you to roll out of bed and roll into work. So think about that.
We have 2 others. Someone said they struggle with discipline and someone else said they struggle with staying focused and completing tasks.
Yep. Okay. So this will help with that. Establish your working hours. So this will stop you from feeling the need to dip back into work 24/7. It's so easy to look at your laptop or look at your home office or whatever and say, it's right here. I'm just going to send one more email. What we need to do is we need to establish working hours. And that means you say, I work from 8:30 or 9, whatever, I'm not judging, 8:30 to 12. That's working hours. And I don't do anything in the house. I don't get distracted by dishes or laundry or whatever from 8:30 to 12. From 12 to like 1:30, I'm going to set an alarm and I'm going to tackle the things that are distracting me in the house. Now, if you have children and children are distracting you, this is what you need to do. You need to, and I don't have children, so I interviewed a lot of women with children. You have to set up a tag team schedule with your husband or wife, where you have your set block of working hours and they have their set block of working hours, and you tag team the it's either daycare or homeschooling or whatever. This is going to help you stay focused and say, I have these 3 hours to work right now. And then you have your time that you're not working and then you go back to work afterwards. So for me right now, because I've figured out my productivity schedule, is I work from like 8:30 to 1. And then I take from 1 to 3 off because once I eat, it's like I hit a food coma. So I take from 1 to 3 off. I have lunch at 1 and then I don't try to work until 3 because I literally will just stare at my computer and get nothing done. And then from 3 to about 5:30 or 6, I'm super productive again. So from 1 to 3, I do all the stuff that's distracting me in the house. And one thing that will also help with that is to make your home office look official. So create an official office environment and try to separate it as much as possible from the rest of your house. Because it's really hard for your brain to shift like home, work, if it's all in the same space. And then as far as not getting distracted, if you have children, what people are telling me is that they are putting up physical barriers. So whether that be a chalkboard or a whiteboard or it's a physical door that they close, they post their working hours on the outside of whatever it is. Mom or dad is working from 8:30 to 1, or maybe it's less, maybe 8:30 to 11:30. If you have a question, put it on this Post-it note and I will get to it at 11:01. Because kids are like, oh, I need it now, I need it now. But that quells a little bit of what they need right now. So kids know that at 11:01, mom or dad's going to come out and answer those questions. I went to my office and I brought home my Herman Miller chair because I wasn't comfortable working in another chair. It didn't feel like my back hurt after like a week. I don't have a printer, so I don't know why I did it, but brought my stapler home. I'm not going to staple anything, but I set up my desk as if I was at work. You're going to get into this next week, but like at work, I always have a plant. So I went out and bought a little orchid for $6.99 from Trader Joe's. I put that there because you're going to learn about plants and stuff next week, but super helpful. I put my plant back there. Like I tried to make it look as much as my office as possible. And then we talked about this, separate work tasks from home tasks. So set the time so that you're not distracted by your home chores. So, and make sure you clarify, this is work, this is home. And then this is super important. Keep your weekends sacred. When we're living in this perpetual yesterday, today, and tomorrow, it's really easy to forget what day it is. But if we're going to get through this and we're not going to burn out, we need to take time to restore and recharge. And the way that we're going to do that is by giving ourselves our weekends back. I don't want you to get burned out. We're at the beginning of this. We're at the beginning of all of the changes we're going to have to make in our work life. So please don't get burned out now. So hopefully that is a good sort of segue into what you're going to be discussing next week with the biophilia in the office and in the home environment. Like Anastasia said, I pre-order for my book in Kindle format will be tomorrow, I believe the link goes live. And then towards the end of June, you can buy the paperback copy anywhere, online, Barnes and Noble, all that stuff. But I just don't have an address for it yet. I don't have a link for that yet. So I will take any questions. You can follow me on all of the places. And yeah, I'm happy to take questions. I hope this was helpful. I did it in 53 minutes. So I hope this was helpful.
This was amazing. I know that all of the participants feel the same way. I'm just looking if we have any more thoughts in the chat box in the Q&A. We do not, but we have time to play a game called Odd Man Out, which I told you that we would play.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that hasn't been a part of the webinar, it's just a little game that we play with our guest. I curate it around the topic, and this particular topic is around business development. So I'm going to give you 3.
I'm nervous.
You shouldn't be. Oh, Shelly Peckham says, that was awesome. Thank you. Paul Votes, I think I'm saying his name correctly, says, terrific webinar. Shelly loves us. Ashley Gooseman, thank you. These are great points and reminded to reach out to ask for recommendations. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay. Which is the odd man out, Julie? Is it A, self-awareness, to recognize how your emotions affect your thoughts and behavior? B, self-regulation, is to control and manage your emotions.
Right. So these are emotional intelligence. Those are 2 emotional intelligence. Okay. What's the third one?
Or C, self-incrimination, to involve oneself in criminal prosecution.
Okay. So C is the odd man out.
Oh, that's so correct. Yes. You win the full digital album of Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
I can't wait. I've been wanting to listen to it. So
it's a pretty amazing album. I feel like a 15-year-old the way I listen to it. Okay, that was awesome. And looks like we have a question really fast. Oh, no. It's another comment saying, thank you for your participation, Julie Brown. So
I am happy to do it. Yeah, if anybody follow me on LinkedIn. I post articles every Tuesday. And then my YouTube, I've sort of ceased my YouTube videos right now. I'm going to be starting them back up again soon, but I ceased them so that I could focus on the sort of COVID newsletters that I was doing. So
The 1 minute.
anyways, you can follow me on YouTube too. So
Brilliant. I'm going to give a special shout out to I'm going to do this correctly.
yeah, can you get that logo up there?
Absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen.
Oh, let me stop sharing my screen maybe.
Oh, there you go. That's right.
Hold on, let me stop sharing mine. Stop share.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see.
Yay!
You see it?
Yes.
I want to say special thanks to Deco Inc. for being our sponsor today. Deco provides specialized construction, maintenance, and fabrication services to leading biopharmaceutical, technology, and industrial clients throughout New England. Please visit them at deco.com.
Thanks for sponsoring. Yay!
Thank you. Special thanks to Deco. Julie, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You and I are in the same town, so
yep.
Maybe I'll wave from 6 feet away with my mask.
You'll see me walking my dogs every night, listening to true crime podcasts.
But soon you'll be listening to the.
Soon you'll be listening to the album. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I like the sign in your window. Oh yeah, give it HP Rocks. Everybody, take a look to the left of Julie's shoulder.
And I have my skull here because I had my Cinco de Mayo party the other day.
Hey. Looks a little like my ex-boyfriend. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next week. Julie Brown, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
We're going to have